The moment she grabbed his hand, Renji Takahashi almost pulled away. Not because he was startled, because he recognized the danger. "Dance with me," she said, like she had every right to ask. The music had just shifted. Slow, smooth, the kind of song people used to pretend they felt something. Renji didn't feel anything. Not anymore. "I don't dance," he replied, his voice flat, controlled. She tilted her head, studying him like he was something unusual but not intimidating. "That's fine. I don't dance either. I just move." And then she didn't wait. She pulled him. For half a second, his body resisted. 9 years of discipline, distance, control, all pushing back at once. Then something in him slipped. His feet moved. The ballroom seemed to notice all at once. Conversations slowed. A few heads turned. Someone near the bar actually stopped mid-sentence. Renji Takahashi was on the dance floor, with a woman nobody recognized. Up close, she was worse than he expected. Her eyes didn't skim over him the way people usually did. They stayed, focused, curious, like she was trying to understand something real instead of reacting to what she had heard about him. "You're stiff," she said lightly, adjusting her hand in his. "I told you I don't dance." "I know. That's why I'm leading." There was no mockery in her voice. No fear either. That was the problem. People were always one or the other around him. She was neither. The music moved through the room. She followed it effortlessly, guiding him without making it obvious. When he hesitated, she compensated. When he slowed, she softened her pace. "You look like someone who forgot how to breathe properly," she said after a moment. His jaw tightened. "I breathe just fine. Not like this." She stepped a little closer, adjusting their rhythm. "Relax your shoulders," she murmured. "You're fighting the music like it offended you personally. I don't like losing control." "That's interesting," she said, her lips curving slightly. "Because right now you're not losing control. You're just sharing it." Something about the way she said it made his chest tighten. He didn't respond. For a few seconds they just moved. And then she laughed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just freely. The sound hit him in a place he hadn't felt in years. "There," she said softly. "You almost smiled." "I didn't." "You did." It was small, but it had potential. He exhaled slowly, his gaze dropping to her face for a fraction longer than necessary. "Who are you?" he asked. "Zainab," she said. "Zainab Adebayo. And you walk up to strangers and drag them into dances often? Only the ones who look like they need it." He almost scoffed. Almost. The song shifted toward its end. The tempo slowed even more, like it was reluctant to let go of the moment. Zainab adjusted her grip slightly, her fingers brushing his wrist. His body reacted before his mind could stop it. Warm. That was the first thing he noticed. Warm. It hit him like something forgotten, something distant, something that didn't belong to him anymore. His expression changed just slightly. She saw it. "There you are," she whispered. "What?" "That look. Like you just remembered something important." He didn't answer, because he didn't know how to explain it. The song ended. Applause scattered lightly across the room, more out of habit than enthusiasm. Zainab stepped back, releasing his hand without hesitation. "See?" she said. "You survived. I never thought I wouldn't." She hummed. "But you didn't expect to feel anything, did you?" He didn't respond. She bent slightly, adjusting her heel, and then it snapped. "Oh," she said, looking down. "That's unfortunate." For a brief second, Renji stared at the broken strap. Then at her. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "No," she said easily, slipping the heel off and holding it in her hand. "Just betrayed by poor shoe engineering." Despite himself, something in his expression shifted again. She noticed. "Careful," she said. That almost looked like concern. It was a question. Of course it was. She smiled, then glanced toward the edge of the ballroom where her friend was waving frantically. "That's my cue," she said, "before I get dragged into something I don't want." She took a step back, barefoot now, completely unbothered. Then she looked at him one more time. "Thank you for the dance, Renji Takahashi," she said. He didn't remember telling her his name. And then she turned and walked away. He stood there longer than he should have. The room slowly returned to normal, conversations rising again, music shifting. But something had changed. He looked down. The broken heel was still on the floor. She hadn't taken it. He bent, picked it up, and held it in his hand. He didn't know why. He just knew he wasn't letting it go. At 2:47 a.m., Renji was still awake. The city stretched below his penthouse, lights blinking like a system he controlled but didn't belong to. The broken heel sat on his desk. He had turned it over in his hand more times than he could count. "Zainab Adebayo," he said quietly. The name felt unfamiliar, and yet, not entirely. A soft knock came at the door. "Enter." His assistant, Kaido, stepped in. "You called?" Renji didn't turn. "Find her." A pause. "The woman from the gala?" "Yes." Kaido hesitated for half a second. "What exactly would you like to know?" "Everything." Another pause. "Understood." Kaido left. Renji picked up the heel again, his fingers tightening slightly around it. For 9 years, he had built his life on certainty. Decisions made early. Emotions removed entirely. Control above everything. And then one woman walked into a room, took his hand, and disrupted all of it in less than 5 minutes. He exhaled slowly. "This is a mistake," he muttered. But even as he said it, he didn't put the heel down. "If this already has you hooked, you're going to want to stay till the end of this story. Trust me, this only gets deeper. And if you love stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Untold Afro-Korean Stories and drop a like so you don't miss what happens next." Because Renji Takahashi had no idea that was the calmest moment he was going to have. Zainab was halfway through her coffee when her phone started ringing again. She didn't check the caller ID. She already knew. "If this is about the pictures," she said the moment she answered. "I've seen them. I'm alive. Nobody died. Relax." "You danced with Renji Takahashi," her friend Sora practically shouted through the line. "Do you understand what you've done?" Zainab took a slow sip. "Yes, I danced. That man does not dance." "Well," she said calmly, "he does now." There was a long pause. "Zainab." "Yes. They're calling you the woman who melted the ice director." Zainab nearly choked on her coffee. "That is dramatic. It's trending." "Of course it is," she muttered. "Tokyo doesn't have enough real problems." "You're not worried?" Zainab leaned back in her chair, staring at the morning light filtering through her apartment window. "No," she said honestly. "Should I be?" Sora hesitated. "I don't know. That man. He's not normal." "Neither am I," Zainab replied simply. Another pause. "That's what I'm afraid of." Zainab smiled faintly and ended the call. She picked up her phone and opened one of the articles. There they were. Photos from the dance. The angle, the lighting, it was all annoyingly perfect. Whoever took them knew exactly what they were doing. But that wasn't what caught her attention. It was him. The way he was looking at her. Not cold. Not detached. Something else. Something unsettled. She stared at it for a few seconds longer than she intended. Then she locked her phone and dropped it on the table. "No," she said out loud. "We're not doing that." She stood, stretched, and walked toward the kitchen. Normal day. Work. Deadlines. Reality. That was the plan. Her doorbell rang. She frowned. Nobody visited her unannounced. She walked over and opened the door. 2 men in dark suits stood outside, perfectly composed. "Miss Adebayo," one of them said, bowing slightly. "Mr. Takahashi would like to see you." Zainab blinked once. Then she leaned against the doorframe. "Did he say please?" The men exchanged a quick glance. "He did not use that word specifically." She said thoughtfully. "Then you can go back and tell him to try again." And she closed the door. Renji stared at Kaido. "She said no?" "She said," Kaido replied carefully, "that you should try again. Renji's jaw tightened slightly. Try again. Yes. A brief silence stretched between them. Then Renji exhaled slowly. Call them back. The doorbell rang again. Zainab opened it immediately this time. The same two men stood there, but now they looked uncomfortable. Miss Adebayo, the taller one said, visibly choosing his words with care. Mr. Takahashi requests, please, that you come see him. Zainab smiled. Better. Give me 10 minutes, she said, and shut the door again. The car ride was quiet. Zainab watched the city pass by, her reflection faint in the window. She wasn't nervous. Curious, yes, but not nervous. That was important, because men like Renji Takahashi expected reactions. Fear, excitement, submission. She didn't intend to give him any of those. The restaurant was discreet, private, expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. They led her upstairs. When she entered the room, he was already there, standing by the window, back straight, hands relaxed at his sides, like he had been waiting without admitting that he was waiting. He turned when she stepped in. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Zainab walked in and sat down. You sent people, she said. I did. That's not how normal people invite someone to lunch. I'm not normal people. She raised an eyebrow. At least you're self-aware. A flicker of something passed across his face. Would you prefer I apologize? Yes. A pause. I apologize. She blinked. That had been easier than expected. That didn't hurt? She asked. More than I expected. She smiled faintly and reached for the tea on the table, pouring herself a cup without asking. He watched her, carefully, like he was studying something unfamiliar but important. You kept my shoe, she said casually. He reached into his jacket and placed the broken heel on the table. I did. She picked it up, turning it over in her fingers. You could have just asked for my number. I don't ask for numbers. And yet, she said, setting it down. Here I am. A small silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just present. What do you want? She asked finally. He didn't answer immediately, and that alone was interesting. I don't know, he said. She paused. You don't know? I haven't said that in 9 years. Her gaze sharpened slightly. That's concerning. It is. She leaned back in her chair, studying him properly now. Then let's simplify it, she said. I'm in Tokyo for 4 months. I have a job. I have a life. I don't do complicated situations. I am a complicated situation. Yes, she agreed. You are. Another pause. So if you want to know me, she continued, you don't get to do it like this. She gestured vaguely around the room. What does this mean? Control. Strategy. Sending people instead of showing up. He absorbed that. Slowly. What would you prefer? She met his eyes directly. Be a person. The words landed quietly, but heavily. Renji held her gaze. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then finally, all right, he said. She studied him for a second longer. Then she nodded once. Good. She stood. Now that we've established that I have work. You're leaving. Yes. You just got here. And we just had the important conversation. He hesitated. Then, can I see you again? The question came out slightly rough. Unpracticed. Zainab noticed that immediately, and something about it softened her expression. Just a little. Yes, she said. But next time, use your phone. He frowned slightly. I don't have your number. She pulled out her phone, typed quickly, and handed it to him. Now you do. He took it. Their fingers brushed for a fraction of a second. Again, warm. She pulled back. Don't overthink it, she added. Just ask. Then she turned and walked out. Renji stood there for a few seconds after she left. Then he looked down at the phone in his hand. A new contact. Zainab. He stared at it longer than necessary. Then typed. Deleted. Typed again. Paused. For a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without hesitation, this felt significantly more difficult. If you're still watching, this is where things start getting interesting. Because now it's no longer just a moment. It's a choice. And choices always come with consequences. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to Untold Afro-Korean Stories, because what's coming next? It's where everything begins to shift. Renji stared at the message for 4 full minutes before sending it. There is an exhibition in Ginza on Thursday. Would you like to go with me? He read it again. Too formal. Too stiff. Too late. The reply came in less than 30 seconds. Is this you asking me, or informing me? His jaw tightened slightly. He typed, asking. Another pause. Then, good, yes. Pick me up at 7. And this time, don't send a delegation. He stared at the message. Then, unexpectedly, a faint exhale left him. At exactly 6:58 p.m., Renji stepped out of his car. Alone. Kaido had argued. Extensively. This is not advisable, Kaido had said. At least one security detail. No. With respect, sir. No. Now here he was, standing outside her building, unaccompanied, unprotected, and strangely, unbothered. The door opened before he could knock. Zainab stepped out, already dressed, adjusting her earrings. She looked at him, then at the empty street behind him, then back at him. You came alone, she said. You told me not to send anyone. I said don't send a delegation. I didn't expect you to interpret that as complete independence. I adapt quickly. She smiled. I'm impressed. She stepped closer, holding out a small paper container. Tekbaki? I don't eat street food. Well, she said, already walking past him. Tonight you do. He hesitated, then followed. I'm not going to die from this, am I? He asked, staring at the bright red sauce. Zainab laughed. It's rice cake, not poison. Relax. I don't relax. I've noticed. She handed him a skewer. Try it. He looked at it like it had personally offended him. Then slowly he took a bite. He paused, chewed. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Well? She asked. It's acceptable. She burst out laughing. Acceptable? That's the best you've got. I don't exaggerate. You should. Life would be more interesting. He glanced at her. It already is. The words came out before he could stop them. She went quiet for a second, then looked away, smiling slightly. Careful, she said. That almost sounded like a compliment. The gallery was bright, crowded, full of quiet judgment disguised as sophistication. They walked side by side, not touching, but close enough. Zainab stopped in front of a painting, abstract, mostly gray. She stared at it for a full minute, then crossed her arms. I can't tell if this is genius or confusion. Renji stepped beside her. It's deliberate. So is confusion. He glanced at her. You don't pretend to understand things you don't. No, she said simply. I prefer honesty over performance. He studied her profile. You don't perform at all. I do, she said. Just not for people who haven't earned it. That landed. He didn't respond, because he understood exactly what she meant. You smiled again, she said suddenly. He frowned slightly. I didn't. You did. Briefly. It was rare. I feel honored. I don't smile. You do now. He exhaled. Stop observing me. I can't, she said lightly. You're interesting. I'm not. You are, she insisted. You just spent 9 years convincing yourself you aren't. He stopped walking. She turned back to him. Their eyes met. For a second. Too long. Too direct. You don't know anything about those 9 years, he said quietly. Her expression didn't change. You're right, she said. But I can see what they did to you. The air shifted. Heavy. Honest. Before he could respond. Mr. Takahashi. They both turned. A young journalist approached, phone already raised. Is this the woman from the gala? Are you in a relationship? Can you confirm? Put the phone down, Renji said. Soft. Cold. The temperature dropped instantly. The journalist froze. Zainab felt it. The shift, the control, the power. She stepped closer and placed her hand on Renji's arm. "Hey," she said gently. His attention snapped to her. "It's fine," she added. "Let's go." He held her gaze for a second longer, then nodded once. They walked past the journalist without another word. Outside, the air was cool, quiet. They walked in silence for a few steps. Then, "You were about to destroy him," Zainab said. "He was being inappropriate. He was doing his job badly. He was crossing a line." She stopped walking, so he stopped too. "You don't need to do that for me," she said. "I wanted to. I know." She held his gaze. "That's not the same thing." A pause. "I can handle questions," she continued. "Even stupid ones. I don't like people disrespecting you. And I don't like being treated like something fragile." The words were calm, but firm. He absorbed them slowly. "You can care," she added. "Just don't control." He looked at her, really looked at her, for a long moment. "That requires restraint," he said. "Then practice." She turned and kept walking. After a second, he followed. 3 weeks passed, and Tokyo noticed. Photos, speculation, opinions. Half the internet admired her. The other half questioned her. Zainab read one comment, then another, then locked her phone. She made tea, sat down, and kept living. "You're trending again," Sora said. "Am I winning?" "That depends on your definition of winning." Zainab smiled faintly. "I'm still here, so yes." Renji was not as unaffected. "Remove the article," he said calmly. "It's already spread," Kaido replied. "We can minimize, but not erase." Renji's jaw tightened. "I don't like this." "I know." A pause. "But she doesn't seem concerned." That stopped him. "She isn't," Kaido continued. "She's continuing her work." No public response. Renji looked out the window. Something about that unsettled him and impressed him at the same time. That night at a private dinner, Renji saw the problem clearly for the first time. Aiko Moriyama, elegant, composed, watching, waiting. Zainab sat across from her, calm, unbothered. But Aiko smiled. And Renji knew this wasn't over, not even close. If you think this is just a love story, you're wrong. This is where pressure enters the picture, and pressure reveals everything. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Untold Afro-Korean Stories, because what's about to happen next? It's where everything starts to break or become something real. The first move didn't look like an attack. That was what made it effective. Zainab walked into the meeting expecting routine updates, deadlines, design revisions, budget adjustments. Instead, she walked into silence. Her manager didn't smile. That was the first sign. "Zainab," he said carefully. "Please have a seat." She sat, calm, still. "What's this about?" A brief hesitation. Then, "We've received concerns." "From a partner." "What kind of concerns?" He exhaled. "Your recent visibility." Zainab blinked once, then leaned back slightly. "Be specific." "Your association with Mr. Takahashi has created complications. There are perceptions forming. It's affecting certain relationships." She held his gaze. "And what exactly are you asking me to do?" A pause. "We're offering you an early exit." Silence. Clean. Sharp. "How generous," she said. "It comes with full compensation. And a strong recommendation." "So I leave quietly," she said. "And everyone stays comfortable." That's one way to look at it. It's the accurate way. Her manager didn't respond, because it was true. Zainab stood. "No," she said simply. "Zainab, no." Her voice didn't rise, didn't shake. "I finish what I start. That's the agreement we had. This situation is different." "No," she said, picking up her bag. "It's just inconvenient for someone." She walked to the door, then paused. "And I don't rearrange my life for other people's comfort." She left. She didn't call him immediately. She went home first. sat down, took a breath, thought, because this mattered. Not emotionally, principally. She had built her life on moving forward, not sideways when pressured. Then she picked up her phone and called. He answered on the second ring. Zainab, someone tried to move me off the board, she said. Silence. Then, tell me. So she did. Everything. He didn't interrupt. Didn't offer solutions. He just listened. The way she had taught him to. When she finished, there was a pause. Then, what do you want to do? She closed her eyes for a second. I want to stay, she said. I want to finish my contract. I don't want to be pushed out because someone is uncomfortable. Then you stay. It's not that simple. It is. His voice was calm, measured, different. You handle your decisions, he continued. I handle interference. She frowned slightly. Renji, I'm not going to overstep, he said. But this was directed at you because of me. A pause. That makes it mine. She considered that, carefully. You're not fixing this for me, she said. I'm not. Another pause. I'm removing a problem I created. That landed. And for the first time since the meeting, Zainab relaxed slightly. All right, she said. Are you okay? She thought about it. Honestly. Yes, she said. I am. Good. A brief silence. Then, Zainab. Yes. I want to take you somewhere this weekend. She raised an eyebrow, even though he couldn't see it. Where? A place I go when I need to remember I'm alive. She didn't speak for a second. Because that meant something. I've never taken anyone there, he added. That meant even more. Okay, she said softly. Show me. Aiko didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. You're being careless, she said, sipping her tea. Renji didn't respond. This woman is temporary, Aiko continued. A distraction at best. A liability at worst. She is neither. Aiko smiled slightly. That's what makes her dangerous. Renji finally looked at her. You're overstepping. No, she said calmly. I'm protecting what matters. What matters to who? To you, she replied smoothly. Even if you've forgotten that. Silence stretched. You're interfering with her work, he said. I'm correcting an imbalance. That ends now. Aiko's smile didn't fade. Or what? Renji held her gaze. Quiet, controlled. But something underneath shifted. You know exactly what, he said. For the first time, Aiko's expression flickered. Just slightly. The house was nothing like she expected. No glass walls. No sharp edges. No cold perfection. Wood, light, space. Felt lived in. Zainab stepped inside slowly. You didn't design this, she said. No. Good. He almost smiled. She walked further in, taking in the details. Your mother? She asked. Yes. She nodded once. That makes sense. He watched her move through the space like she belonged there. Like she wasn't intimidated by what it meant. Or who he was. That was still new to him. Still unsettling. In a way he didn't want to change. Does this still work? She asked, pointing at the record player. Yes. She crouched slightly, flipping through the records. Interesting taste. She pulled one out. What's this one? He stepped closer, looked, and stilled. My mother's favorite. She glanced at him. You haven't played it in a while. No. How long? 9 years. Quiet pause. She held the record out. Not forcing. Just offering. Then maybe it's time. He stared at it. Then took it. Slowly. He placed it on the player. Lowered the needle. The music started. Soft. Old. Unhurried. They stood there for a moment. Listening. Then, she held out her hand. Again. Dance with me. He didn't hesitate this time. He took it. No audience. No pressure. No expectations. Just space. And sound. And presence. He moved differently now. Not perfect. Not practiced. But open. She noticed. Of course she did. You're not fighting it anymore, she said softly. I'm not fighting you. She smiled. That's progress. They moved slowly across the wooden floor. The light shifted around them. Time felt different. When the music ended, neither of them stepped back. "Zainab," he said quietly. She looked up. "I don't know how to do this. I know. I've spent 9 years avoiding anything that felt like this. I know that too." A pause. Heavy. Real. "I don't want to lose it," he said. Her expression softened. "You don't even know what it is yet." "I know enough." She studied him. This man who had built himself into something untouchable, now standing in front of her without armor. "I'm not someone who falls easily," she said. "Neither am I." She exhaled slightly. "But I think I am." The words hung between them. Unfiltered. Unprotected. Honest. Renji looked at her like he was memorizing something. Or choosing it. Or both. "For now," she added quietly. "This is enough." He nodded. And for the first time, it was, "If you've made it this far, you already know. This isn't ordinary." And the final part? That's where everything either breaks or becomes something undeniable. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Untold Afro-Korean Stories because the ending? You don't want to miss it. The third move didn't come with a warning. Came with silence. Zainab knew something was wrong the moment her manager avoided her eyes the next morning. That never happened twice. "Can we talk?" he asked. She didn't sit this time. "Say it." A pause. Then, "The decision has been finalized." Her expression didn't change. "What decision?" "We're terminating your contract. Effective immediately." Silence. Sharp. Clean. Final. Zainab nodded slowly. "I see. It wasn't." "It was." She cut in gently. "Let's not pretend otherwise." He looked uncomfortable. "You'll receive full compensation. A recommendation letter. Keep it." That stopped him. "What?" "I said keep it," she repeated. "I didn't come here to be escorted out quietly." "Zainab, please." "No," she said, her voice calm but unmovable. "You don't get to remove me and make it look polite." A pause. "Who made the call?" He hesitated. "She already knew." "Right?" she said. "That's enough." She picked up her bag and walked out. She didn't call Renji immediately. Not this time. She needed to understand what she felt first. Anger? A little. Disappointment? Not really. Resolve? Definitely. She had built too much of herself to be shaken by this. But still, she reached for her phone and called. He answered on the first ring. "Zainab." "They did it," she said. Silence. Then, "Are you okay?" She almost laughed. "Yes," she said. "I'm still me. That hasn't changed." A pause. "Good." Another pause. Then, "I'm coming to you." "No," she said immediately. Silence. "No," he repeated. "No," she said again, softer this time. "Not like that." A longer pause. "Then how?" She exhaled. "Meet me halfway." That landed. He understood what she meant. "I'll send you a location," she added. "I'll be there." They met at a quiet overlook above the city. No cameras. No staff. No expectations. Just them. Renji arrived first. Of course he did. He stood at the edge, looking out over Tokyo, hands in his pockets, posture controlled, but something underneath restless. He heard her footsteps before he turned. She walked up beside him, calm, grounded, unaffected in the way that mattered. "They terminated my contract," she said, looking straight ahead. "I know. You moved fast." "I had to." She glanced at him. "That wasn't your move." A pause. "No," he admitted. Silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, just real. "I'm not leaving," she said. "I didn't think you would." "I'm staying," she continued. "But not because of you." "I know." Another pause. "But I'm also not pretending this doesn't affect me," she added. He turned slightly toward her. "I don't like what this is becoming," he said. "What is it becoming?" "A situation where you get hurt because of me." She met his eyes. "I don't get hurt that easily." "I know." he said quietly. That's not what I mean. A beat. I don't want to be the reason your life gets complicated. Zainab tilted her head slightly. It was already complicated, she said. You're just the interesting part. That caught him off guard. Just enough. Interesting, he repeated. Yes. She stepped a little closer. You don't get to decide for me what's worth it. I'm not trying to control. I know, she said gently. That's why I'm still here. Silence. Then, what do you want? He asked. Not as a strategy. Not as control. As a real question. She took her time answering. I want honesty, she said. I want you to stop acting like this is temporary just because it's unfamiliar. He held her gaze. I don't think it's temporary. Then say that. A pause. I don't think this is temporary, he said. The words settled. Real. Unfiltered. And I don't want to lose it, he added. She studied him carefully. You don't even know what it is yet. I know enough. She exhaled slowly, then smiled soft but certain. Good. They stood there for a moment. City lights below. Quiet above. Then, you should know something, he said. What? I already handled Aiko. Zainab raised an eyebrow. How? She won't interfere with your work again. My work doesn't exist anymore, she pointed out, a faint shift in his expression. It will. She studied him. You're doing it again. Doing what? Solving things before I ask you to. A pause. He exhaled. You're right. Silence. Then, can I try something different? He asked. She nodded. Yes. He took a step closer. Not imposing. Not controlling. Just present. I don't know what happens next, he said. I don't know how to do this properly. I told you, she said softly. Stop trying to do it properly. Then how? She held his gaze. Just do it honestly. A long pause. Then, I want you, he said. No hesitation. No calculation. Just truth. The words hung in the air. Zainab didn't respond immediately. She stepped closer. Close enough to feel the warmth she had noticed the first night. Close enough to see the shift in his eyes. You're getting better at this, she said quietly. He almost smiled. Almost. Then, I want you to, she said. Simple. Clear. Certain. And just like that, everything changed. Not dramatically. Not explosively. But completely. Weeks later, Tokyo was still talking. Still speculating. Still watching. But something had shifted. The story wasn't about control anymore. Or power. Or reputation. It was about two people who had chosen, despite everything, to stay. On a quiet evening, back at the house in the hills, the record player hummed softly. Zainab stood by the window, watching the sky shift into deep blue. Renji stepped behind her. Not too close. Not distant either. Balanced. You're thinking, he said. I always am. About leaving? She turned slightly. No. A pause. About staying. He nodded once. Good. She smiled faintly. Careful, she said. That sounded like hope. It is. The word came easily now. That was new. She studied him. This man who had spent 9 years untouched. Now learning how to feel again. Not perfectly. Not completely. But honestly. That's dangerous, she said. I know. Are you worried? He looked at her. Really looked. Then shook his head. No. Why? A small pause. Then, because for the first time, he said, I'm not trying to control what happens next. She held his gaze. And I don't hate that. She smiled, then held out her hand. Dance with me. He didn't hesitate. Not this time. Not anymore. He took it. And somewhere between the music, the silence, and the space they had created, Renji Takahashi laughed. Not controlled. Not restrained. Real. Zainab looked at him like she had been waiting for that moment all along. And maybe, she had. If you made it to the end, you already know. This wasn't just a story. It was a journey about feeling again, about choosing connection over control, and about meeting the one person who changes everything without trying. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Untold Afro-Korean Stories for more powerful stories like this. Tell me in the comments, would you have taken his hand? And trust me, this is not the end.